Hey there, this is Tarun Gill, your fitness host. Well, I'm going to answer some of those queries which will shatter some of you. Let's just say they may be an eye opener. For all you know, this information could be new, or probably you may have heard of this. But you know what? I'm going to face a lot of ruckus around what I'm just about to share with you. So, what is that? I have a lot of these teenagers and kids coming up to me and asking me, Tarun, I want a fitness model physique. I want a physique, I should take my shirt off. It should be ripped to bones. I just want to be chiseled. I said, okay, you can be. Obviously, there has to be an effort. He said, yeah, I'm willing to give my 100% effort. I said, cool. I said, next is dedication. He said, yes, sir, I'm going to be fully dedicated to this. I said, discipline. He says, yeah, I'm game, Tarun, sir, please. What do I do now? How do we start? So my next question is, how much money do you have? Now, don't get me wrong. If you remember my last video on steroids, I talked about that I'm going to be sharing some of the stuff that you had only heard of. So this is my episode 2 around the same subjects, the juice. Now, coming back to my point. So I asked him, how much money do you have? He said, paise money? How much money do you think we need for this? I said, buddy, minimum 80,000 to 1 lakh a month. And this is just the cost of your supplement, your juice, your steroids, your diet. And he was like shocked. He was like, sir, itne paise lagte hain? Yes, you heard it right. It takes that much amount of money. If you don't believe me, let me just kind of share it with you. I've kind of have a breakdown of each and every amount, how you're going to spend it. There we go. I have this presentation lined up for you. Now, muscle building tools. What are those tools? Number 1, food. You will be spending about rupees 300 to 500 every day. Probably, on your chicken breast, 150 to 200 rupees, you would have about at least half a kg, I presume. Some fish if you're non-vegetarian. Juice and everything, fruits, dry fruits. I think 500 is very, very conservative. It may even go up till about 1,000 rupees. So I'm going to roughly get about 500 rupees on your food. Next, whey protein. Now, for a person like you and me, a box of protein, 5 LB box of protein is just good enough, which could range somewhere between rupees 3,500 to 6,000 rupees. But for a bodybuilder or a fitness model who's aspiring for that chiseled, ripped physique, 1 box won't be enough for the month. You've got to have at least 2 boxes. 2 boxes, I mean 10 lbs, which is equivalent to about 4.8 to 5 kilos, which means 4 to 6 scoops a day. Yeah, you heard me right. 2 boxes of that. That'll cost you somewhere between 6,000 to 7,000 rupees. 3, BCAAs, because obviously when you're trying to get ripped, you would want to add BCAAs because you don't want to compromise on your hard-earned muscles. So you want to retain that muscle, and BCA may be of help to you, but you don't want to risk it. So you will invest in BCAA for your intra-workout, right? Now let's talk about the juice, the dark side of fitness, the steroid. Holistically speaking, usually a bodybuilder, an Indian bodybuilder or a fitness model, I'm not going to name people here, spend at least rupees 10,000 to 25,000 rupees a month on 1 or 2 cycles. Now this cycle could range between 6 weeks to 12 weeks for a bodybuilder to prepare for a stage show. He usually takes about good 3 to 6 months. So this is how he spends. So this cycle could be around his, he may start with bulking, add, some Dibol or some, anadrolic, which are bulking oral steroids. And then he'll go down to about, cutting steroid like a Winstrol, Sanazole and a little bit of equipoise just to give that definition out. That's the juice part of it. So I'm ranging between 10,000, 25,000, depending on how the body is going to respond. And trust me, these bodybuilders really jack up, and their doses really go up the sooner they're reaching the competition. So if they start with about, say, a cc a week, it may go up to about 3 cc a week too. So it's the dosage also, and every dosage comes with the money. Now there's another thing that these guys have started adding into their arsenal, which is the HGH. Now HGH is human growth hormones. I have a different video planned for this, so I'm not going to tell you what they are. They're just peptides. They're to be injected on your stomach. And that, my friend, is a very, very expensive, I would call it a drug. So typically 100 IU kit of HGH will cost you somewhere between 20,000 to 50,000 rupees depending on the brand. Yeah, say a Ranbaxy head-on brand will cost you about 15 to 20,000 100 IUs versus a Lilly or a Pfizer, which will cost you somewhere between 40 to 50,000 a month for 100 IUs. And you have to take about 4 IUs a day. Once upon waking up, once before going to sleep. That's 50,000 right here. So monthly cost to prepare for a bodybuilding show is rupees 80,000 to 1 lakh. Can you imagine 1 lakh a month on yourself? That's why I say people who have a great physique either are super rich, it's a royal sport, or that's why you'll see a lot of bodybuilders and fitness models, Indian models I'm talking about, they don't have actually money to spend, otherwise they just spend all their money on supplements and steroids and stuff like that. So 6-month prep, you're looking at somewhere between 6 lakhs. 6 lakh is what you typically would be spending to get that look and hoping that you may win the show. Let's say you win the show. After putting your body through this torture and risk, and what do you get in return? Rupees 10,000, you're Mr. Delhi, Mr. Haryana, Mr. UP, and God knows the misters of the world. For 10,000 rupees, you're going to get that. Now, you tell me, is it a good trade-off? So let's not even talk about the bodybuilding trade-off. Let's talk about why would you want to do this? I'm not saying you should invest this much money. Now, so I always say about steroids, unless it's your profession, unless you're trying to be a model, unless you're trying to be an actor, and where your body will get you work, is the time when you may want to think about steroids. Otherwise, you don't have to. Otherwise, if you're a person like you or me, the only cost you would actually have to incur a month is usually a whey protein, which is somewhere between 3,500 to 6,000 rupees, and your diet, which is about 300 to 400 rupees, and about BCAAs is not necessary if you want to. So somewhere between 7 to 10,000 rupees, which is, I think, is reasonable. Even if you don't want to spend that much on your diet, it's still okay. Now my point is, because you've been asking me about steroids and stuff, we really don't need to. I will talk about each and every steroid salt in terms of what they do, how they do it, what are the pros and cons, and how you should take it. But as a person, it's who's just a social fitness, into social fitness and just want to impress the girls or probably want to get this photo shoot done, steroids not the way. And naturally, you can do a lot more. Trust me, you can do a lot more naturally. Unless you want to compete in a bodybuilder show for rupees 10,000, 15,000 rupees, and you want to put your body through all that risk, you may want to think about going to the steroid route. Otherwise, it's of no use. So I hope you get the answer and the muscle building tools that you would need to get that chisel body. You can still get it naturally. I'm not discouraging you, but it may take a little longer. Not 6 months. It could be about 9 months. It could be about 12 months. But the awards would be very, very rewarding. So I hope you get your answer now. So any one of you who have any questions on this, please feel to write it below on comment and be happy to answer. I strongly feel that steroids is a subject that I think we really need to talk openly about it, because I see a lot of teenagers abusing it without actually even knowing what they are. So I'm here to help you. Anything else you want to know about fitness, feel free to write it either on my YouTube channel or on my Facebook channel, and I'll be happy to address those queries via video log of mine. So until we meet again, see you.